Hello, I'm Robin Bilasarian, and I've been doing tapping for 24 years, bringing tapping into mainstream mental health.
My name is G. Montrestelli. I've been tapping for about 15 years, and for 2.5 years, I had the opportunity to teach tapping as part of a comprehensive anger management class in a county jail.
We're going to show you how to use tapping for anger today, but we want you to know that this is a public video and not therapy, and we hope the information makes your life better and helps you calm down and settle. We also want you to know that by agreeing to this, you're agreeing that this is not therapy and you're assuming all the risks of a virtual presentation. However, if anything is overwhelming, please contact a mental health professional, your medical doctor, or go to your local emergency room for assistance. Jean, hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm good. Jean, you are the expert. You are the expert in many areas, but can you talk to our audience today about how the heck do they manage their anger? Because their anger is getting them into a fair amount of trouble.
Yeah, I think the thing that is really important for us to recognize when we're dealing with anger or any emotion is recognize the fact that the emotions are not the enemy. Emotions are just information that our system, our emotional guidance, is telling us how we perceive the world. And the word perceive is really, really important inside of that because it's not what is going on, but it's how we're perceiving it, which is making us respond. And anger is the information of perceived attack. That we have anger come up inside of us when we're in a circumstance where we think something bad is going to happen to us. Because if we were in a situation where there was actual danger around us, the energy and the focus that comes along with the emotion of anger is something that's really, really great because it literally can keep us alive. Like I said at the beginning, I taught anger management in a county jail. And some of my guys were in circumstances in which they were in such peril because of that anger they got out. But the problem is when the anger shows up in a disproportionate and misinformed way. Anger is good. All emotions are good. All of them are healthy. But when they show up in a way that's unuseful, that's when it becomes problematic. And so if someone's in a situation where they're going, oh, I have an issue with anger, what they are recognizing is the fact that this useful piece of information is showing up at a time that it is not useful, or it's showing up at a time where it's much too big for the circumstance. And so the question that we start to ask is, if I am having anger in a disproportionate way or a way that it's just in a time that it's not supposed to be there, is to start asking the question, why is my internal guidance system, why is my subconscious mind, why is my unconscious mind recognizing something around me as a threat? So it needs to be like building itself up to keep us safe.
Jean, you and I both have quite a specialty in tapping and the emotional freedom technique. And of course, individually, we would ask people to come up with their own issues, but they're watching a video today. Can we do tapping on anger in a general way?
Absolutely. And basically what we do is, and this is the general way that I'm going to show you right now. You can actually do this for any emotion, but this is the way that it would look if we were tapping on anger. And what we're going to do is we're going to key into what I just talked about, this idea of showing up in a disproportionate, misinformed way and the fact that it is useful. So the tapping would just look something like this. I recognize the fact.
And I'm going to echo you, Jean. I recognize the fact
that I feel anger.
That I feel anger.
And I feel it in a really big way.
And I feel it in a really big way.
And when I feel it.
And when I feel it.
It takes over me.
It takes over me.
It takes over my actions.
It takes over my actions.
And it makes it really difficult for me.
And it makes it really difficult for me.
To make good conscious thoughts.
To make good conscious thoughts.
Because all I am doing.
Because all I am doing.
Is seeing red.
Is seeing red.
And wanting to fight back.
And wanting to fight back.
But I also recognize the fact.
But I also recognize the fact.
That anger is not the enemy.
That anger is not the enemy.
Anger is trying to keep me safe.
Anger is trying to keep me safe.
It's trying to keep me healthy.
It's trying to keep me healthy.
By giving me the ability.
By giving me the ability.
To fight my way out of danger.
To fight my way out of danger.
And 7,000 years ago.
And 7,000 years ago.
My ancestors encountered real danger.
My ancestors encountered real danger.
And the ability to feel anger.
And the ability to feel anger.
And the energy that came from that anger.
And the energy that came from that anger
kept them safe
kept them safe
as they were able to fight their way out of danger.
as they were able to fight their way out of danger.
But what is happening to me today
But what is happening to me today
is this very primitive anger
is this very primitive anger
is showing up in a time and a place
is showing up at a time and a place
where I'm not actually in danger.
where I'm not actually in danger.
I'm perceiving an attack,
I'm perceiving an attack,
which my internal guidance
which my internal guidance
is seeing as a real attack.
is seeing as a real attack.
And so my anger is showing up in a disproportionate way.
So my anger is showing up in a disproportionate way.
It's showing up in a misinformed way.
It's showing up in a misinformed way.
And so I appreciate the fact
So I appreciate the fact
that this part of me is trying to keep me safe.
so that this part of me is trying to keep me safe.
It's just working way too hard.
It's just working way too hard.
And it thinks it's the only part of me
And it thinks it's the only part of me
that is trying to keep me safe.
that is trying to keep me safe.
I recognize the fact
I recognize the fact
that I can be safe,
that I can be safe,
that I can be healthy
that I can be healthy
without having to be in anger.
without having to be in anger.
And if the anger quiets down
And if the anger quiets down
and it shows up in a proportionate way,
and it shows up in a proportionate way,
I can still be safe.
I can still be safe.
I can still be healthy.
I can still be healthy.
Turning anger down
Turning anger down
does not mean that I'm reckless.
does not mean that I'm reckless.
It doesn't mean that I'm careless.
Doesn't mean that I'm careless.
It doesn't mean that I'm thoughtless.
It doesn't mean that I'm thoughtless.
I appreciate the fact
I appreciate the fact
that this part of me is trying to keep me safe.
that this part of me is trying to keep me safe.
I hear it loud and clear.
I hear it loud and clear.
And so the anger has done its job.
So the anger has done its job.
So it can release.
So it can release.
It can relax.
It can relax.
It can let go.
It can let go.
And if there is danger in the future,
And if there is danger in the future,
the anger is allowed to come back and keep me safe.
the anger is allowed to come back and keep me safe.
But it doesn't have to be on the surface.
But it doesn't have to be on the surface.
Every moment of my experience,
Every moment of my experience,
in order to keep me safe and healthy.
in order to keep me safe and healthy.
Nice deep breath. And so you notice as we do that, I'm just stating what is. I'm stating this is the nature of anger. I'm stating this is the way anger is showing up in my life. I'm appreciating anger. And I think this is something that's really key when we're trying to transform our emotions to show up in a way that is most helpful. Is the phrase that I often use with my clients is I want to make my issues my allies, because they are. They're a part of me that's trying to keep me safe. The problem is the way that they're showing up or how big they are showing up. And so it's amazing with any emotion, but especially anger, if we say, I see you. I know you're trying to keep me safe. I appreciate that you're trying to keep me safe. The anger kind of goes, okay, I'm not alone in doing this sort of thing. And so by, again, stating what is going on, how it is showing up in a bigger way, appreciating it, and then giving it permission to come back when it's useful, it's just like I'm having this little negotiation with this part of me that's trying to keep me safe, where it's no longer fighting for my attention because it knows that we are in dialogue, which makes using a tool like that so much easier for us, because the emotions are useful if they show up in the way that is most useful.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And the only thing that I would add to all that you did is don't be surprised, those of you who are watching, if you feel anger in your body, you feel a tightness in your chest and your throat and your stomach, a tightness in your fist. And don't be surprised as you're going through all that Jean just showed us, if their body doesn't start to relax too. And that's really a lovely side effect of using tapping.
Yeah. And I love the idea that you're tuning into this idea of the physical sensations, because sometimes we're in a situation where I know I am angry and I don't exactly know why. Now, obviously when anger is super, super sharp and big, we typically have a good idea. But the other day I woke up, I just was angry and I couldn't figure out why. And so I took that physical sensation that I could just feel this fire in my chest, and I just asked the physical sensation. And I said, okay, you feel angry right now. Why do you feel so angry? Where do you see the attack coming? And in having that conversation with the physical sensation, I was able to go, oh, this is the reason why the anger is showing up, which then gave me more insight as I was going through that tapping. Even if I tapped in the exact same way that we just tapped without voicing the specifics, by recognizing why I was angry before doing that, I was now negotiating with not anger, but a specific instance of anger, which makes releasing it so much easier and so much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gene, I have to tell you, sometimes I just go straight for the body. Tightness in my chest, tightness in my chest, tightness in my chest. My fists are so tight. My fists are so tight. My fists are so tight. My throat is so tight.
Yeah.
And I find like that it's not comprehensive, but it's a very nice release to just
100%.
kind of quiet down the body, as well as the comprehensive way that you really, I really like that you start with where you are, and it's a process of where you end up, and they're very different.
And the other thing that happens is when we have a strong physical sensation, the only thing that we can notice is the strong physical sensation because it is so big. And if we're tapping at the beginning just on the physical sensation like you do, I often think about it like looking into a backyard that has morning mist in it. And as the sun comes up, the mist burns away. And all of a sudden I can see, oh, there's a tree. Oh, it happens to be a pine tree. And there is a shed that is rusty. And as I'm tapping on the physical sensation, the mist is kind of clearing away. And all of a sudden I start getting clarity about the details. And it's almost as if the physical sensation is the hard outer candy shell. And as we tap on that hard candy outer shell, we get to the gooey, tasty middle stuff, which is the aspects and the specifics of it. But because that physical sensation is so strong, that is the only thing I notice. And tappers are always told, the more specific you are, the better you're going to do with your tapping. And they mistake that for saying, I have to be specific in order to be successful. And the reality is we need to be as specific as we can in the moment to be successful. And if as specific as I can is my fists are tight, my fists are tight, my fists are tight, that is all the specificity I need. And then as that relaxes, I can go, okay, now what's the specificity I have now?
Yeah,
so I don't have to be specific, just as specific as I can, and start, because then the details will become clearer and clearer as we do that.
Right. It's peeling an onion, of course. And out here is the physical. I've got this tightness. I've got this pounding chest. Okay. I feel electric in my body. And you take down that, and then you go into the next one, and it's like, oh yeah, that person said something that was really hostile to me. Okay. Really hostile to me. That person said something really hostile to me. And then you go back in, and oh yeah, this reminds me of the time when I was 10. Okay. And you just keep going into the onion. But any place in the onion you want to start is absolutely fine.
And sometimes there's even a layer outside of that, which is my emotion about the circumstance. I can't believe my anger got the best of me again.
I agree.
And so I now have an emotion about the experience. And so oftentimes, if I'm having trouble even getting a hold of the physical sensation or what's going on, I ask myself, how do I feel about the fact that I'm back in this place again? Because if you're tapping on anger, it is because this is something that's persistent in your life. Like tuning into a conversation like this is because you recognize that's the fact. The guys I taught in the county jail showed up to the class because they recognized part of the reason they were there was their anger had gotten the best of them.
Right. And that's where you would start. My anger got the best of me. My anger got the best of me. Here it is again. My anger got the best of me, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Gene,
so we just start with what is.
Yeah, this has been fabulous. You are such a world of information on anything that I need to know about tapping. And it's always a joy to spend time with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.